Good afternoon to you all. We're about to begin the begin the activities for the 17th General Assembly. We will discuss about the agenda. We're opening the open session segment of the 17th WCC General Assembly. Will be the first welcome address. President Abramian, please give the floor to the host organization from Order of Engineers de Portugal, Fernando Almeida Santos, Bastonario.
Hello, good afternoon to everyone. Fernando, please address the audience.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Thank you to be here in Portugal for this General Assembly of 2022 of WCCA, and also profiting that the Executive Board meeting of the CCA, and also a particular satisfaction to have here with us the President of the American Society of Civil Engineers, Maria Lyman, also in this work as observator, invite the WCCA, and also the President of WFEO, José Vieira, also with us. So I think we have here the biggest partners of civil engineering in Porto this week, and saying just to saying that it's a pleasure for us and for me as Bastonario of Order of Engineers of Portugal to host more these international events. With nowadays, with my experience in these things, with too many friends at the moment that I can see there for a long time. So I hope you very good stay here in Porto, and nice work these days. Thank you, Josh. And of course, a particular word for the President of the WCCA, Jorge Abramian, of course, that we share this organization.
Thank you very much. I think now it's your turn, Jose.
Okay, good afternoon to everybody. Thank you very much, George. Dear fellow engineers, dear colleagues, I have some words here to address you in this General Assembly. As President of WFEO, the World Federation of Engineering Organizations, it is my pleasure to participate in this important event on the occasion of the WCCE General Assembly in this beautiful city of Porto. And I want to warmly congratulate its president, Jorge Abramian, and the president of the hosting institution, Ordem dos Engenheiros, Fernando Santos. I can remember you that George has been serving at the WFEO as well, in our executive council, and as a member of the board committee of nomination committee of the board. So these first words is for thank you very much for this invitation, and it is my pleasure to be here in a city where I was graduated in civil engineering. As you know, maybe you have already heard before, here we have a faculty, a very well-known faculty of civil engineering. And by the way, we have here the president of this civil engineering department, I think. And I consider this my town as well. So it's a pleasure to welcome you, everybody here. Well, this is a time for civil engineering professional institution leaders making a great contribution in various ways in reaching some of our common objectives. I'm sure we share a strategic vision that first, engineering is essential in reaching the sustainable development goals, and this is even more important when it comes to fostering technological capacity building in developing countries. We have taken an integrated approach to address the most pressing challenges of climate change and the environmental multifactorial crisis. These include, of course, technological innovation to build and improve resilient infrastructures, water and food supply systems, and decarbonized energy pollution. But it will also take a great deal of cooperation at institutional levels to raise and harmonize the standards of engineering education to ensure that we are building the right capacity through the right engineering skills. WSO leadership, represented here by me, will remain by your side, the side of WCCE, in the coming years to face those challenges. Be all assured of my friendship and gratitude for all those years of kind cooperation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jose. Now is the time that I have to thank. And I will thank you, I will thank especially to Fernando, not just because he's hosting this meeting, but because of his support that was shown by some words that he said, and he said it several times. Count on me, whatever you need, whatever you want, I will be there. So that's the kind of guy is Fernando. He's always there and doesn't, you know, post any problem, and he's always saying yes to the proposals. So it's a very positive person, and I'm glad that you're here. The second person I would like to thank is Carlos. Carlos Mineiro was the former president, and he shared with me all the decisions, and we had pretty difficult times with WCCE. And at one point, Carlos took the initiative to donate 5,000 euros to support our commitments with the Colegio of Spain. And also, he said at that time that the Order of Engineers of Portugal will pay for all his trips. So as president, during his presidency, WCCA did not have to pay any of the trips that he made. So that's the kind of person Carlos is. So thank you. And I also have to thank the CEPIC. CEPIC is the Council of Professional Civil Engineers of Argentina that is supporting me. Actually, before I took this position, I asked them if I could count on them, and they said yes, no problem. So they are paying for my trips except for one a year. And that is a condition that actually I put, not the CEPIC, because I need to show, or I need to feel there is a commitment from the members of WCCE to share the burden. The CEPIC not only paid for my trips, but also took under its charge the website, the hosting of the website, and also, well, I'll tell you later, some programming that we had to do to put it back online, because, you know, I don't know if you remember the history, but the expenses that we were having with the website were very high. So at one point we decided to shut down the service from our host, but we didn't have the website already in place in some other and have some other hosts. So we were without website for several months. So those are especially the things that I wanted to give. And of course, thank you to all of you that are attending this meeting, and from who I am learning always. So I think we can follow with the next topic, and I think those are the administrative type of things that we have to take care of. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now we will begin on the first topic on the open session agenda, which is to be the roundtable from challenges and opportunities for civil engineering organizations. Please, the panelists that are to come, please come to the room. Mesa redonda.
Okay.
The U table, rather than the round table. Well, thank you, Mr. President. I think you were going to make an introductory notice. I'll going to make the present.
Yeah, I will give a short presentation just to boost the debate. Maybe it's I don't know if you will like it, but it's something that may spark discussions, maybe somewhat disruptive. From my analysis, I believe the engineers are good for delivering things. So basically, this is what I'm saying. Give me an idea and I will deliver. But I'm not too sure if we are so much creative. And this is the part where you can spank me. But look at the following. What happened there? Well, Jules Verne, and in 1868, just wrote a book, a novel, that was From Earth to Moon. In 1969, engineers were able to produce a rocket that will go to the moon. So it happened 100 years later. We inspired in Jules Verne. Now, what happened with the cell phone? In 1973, we had the Motorola, the first cell phone. However, in 1961, Dick Tracy was using not just a cell phone, but something better than an iPhone, or maybe similar to an iPhone. And you know how many years passed by, because 1973 was a Motorola, but the cell phone with video capacity, I believe it was about the 1990s. So look at that. The Stealth aircraft, that was invented in 1975. However, Wonder Woman cartoon just showed a Stealth aircraft in 1942. So are we inspired by cartoonists, by movie makers? Look at this other one. This is one of my favorite movies, Space Odyssey 2001. and that followed the novel of Arthur C. Clarke, in 1968, he was showing HAL 9000, artificial intelligence, a computer that had a mind of its own. In 1990, we had Deep Blue that defeated Kasparov for the first time. Look at the tracers. Spider-Man had those tracers in 1964. In 1990, we had an automatic information system for marine traffic. Just 25 years later. So engineers can do all these things, so they are terrific. We cannot argue about that. And they can do what people ask. The question is, how can we go a step forward, be the creators of the ideas? And that's the first part of my presentation. The second part, it's an analysis of our organizations, the engineering organizations. It does not pretend to be scientific, but this is what I see. We have local mandatory organizations, and we have the voluntary associations that could be national or international. Local mandatory organizations are pretty easy. They are created by law, and they are able to collect money from the professionals. It's mandatory for the professionals to be registered, so it's easy to collect money. Voluntary associations are a bit different, and we can have technical organizations, chambers and guilds, and federations. Technical organizations, they face some difficulties because, of course, it's voluntary. But there is something that is common to all the associated persons. So there is a vested interest in being associated to those. For example, I'm in ports and navigation, so I gladly pay the permanent association of navigation congresses. And, you know, because they give me things, they give me books, they give me guidelines, they give me forums and people who are in the same problems that I can discuss with. So we have those technical organizations. They can survive. They are able to do their things without any problems. Chambers and guilds too. Chambers are usually organizations that gather people who are trying to push laws, to pass laws that benefit the group, that fit their interest. So those chambers support the associated to these chambers usually support them, and they can put even big money on them because they are after businesses. Federations are the most vulnerable ones, and WCC is a federation because even though we have individual members, our main members are associations. So it's an association of associations. So that makes it difficult because each associate has a board that has to decide that to pay a fee and to give some time of some of their members. So it's and these bodies change from time to time. So the decisions have to be made every once in a while. And it's difficult to keep something steady going on for the federation could plan ahead with sufficient time and sufficient confidence. So what happens with engineering organizations? If they are not working well, we have to troubleshoot the problem. And one of the first questions is, do we have clear goals? The second is, have we achieved a critical mass? Because that's the point, I believe, the key. And it's not only money that, the financial needs have to be covered, but it's not only money, but it's committed persons. And sometimes that is more difficult to get than the money. We have to have people that work for the organization. And to finalize, there is a big question that I make, and in the yesterday's meeting, I already posted, it's how particularly a federation can benefit or can give benefits to individual professionals of each of the member organizations. So that's a challenge. We have to think about the registered professional, not our associations, not ourselves, but we have to think about the simple engineer who is paying for his fees, his professional fees, to the board where this person is registered. Thinking about this, I will push for a new initiative in WCC that will not cost much money, and I think will benefit these individual members. And it's, I will call it the Innovative Project Initiative, which will be something on the website where we can show, or each member, each engineer can show a particular aspect that he considers innovative of a particular project that he prepared. So I think could be an incentive for our individual members to join and to be closer to our WCC. Okay, this is it for me. It was supposed to be short, and I will happy receive all the criticisms that you want and ideas or whatever. So I don't know who wants to start talking. Anybody? Would you like to say something, Joseph?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, must be very careful with me, because always I take the floor and but you put here some issues very interesting to discuss. For example, about the overwhelming engineering everywhere in our society, and we as engineers, we are not so well considered. This is we have not so big visibility as our work, our profession is important to society. I remember, for example, we are now celebrating the century of the death of a very big engineer in the world. His name, you know, Gustav Eiffel. Eiffel has designed and built a tower that was very it was not so approved in that time, and now is a symbol, is the icon of one town, is Paris. But we have a lot of bridges, a lot of things that we have the hand of engineers, and we can go a little bit more backwards and come to the first revolution, for example, with a new source of energy, the steam. And afterwards, we have also the electricity, another one, nuclear power, and so on, so on. So, and now we are facing a new revolution with digital transformation of the society. So all of these points, if you go through our history, they have a mark, a very strong mark of engineers, but society, I must say, don't recognize so that way. For example, one thing is important now, we discuss about gender equality. And if you go to our history to see what has been the increase of well-being and quality of life that the engineers could offer to society, bringing water to a house, And with these building systems and networks, we can have here saving a lot of time from women that they take water from the springs or the river and so on. So this is a very important I would say upgrade of our society, and for women, because the men, they want not to wash the children in the river or something. And still now we have in different parts of the world this kind of solution, and we have not reached in all the world this access of water or other things. So this is one for me, a very important point to increase the visibility of the work of engineers. And I think that our organizations must look at this point and to give our efforts to do something on this. I must say that in WFO, we are very concerned about that, and we have some initiatives to open this to the society. For example, we have now and with the patronage of UNESCO, we have the World Engineering Day. Well, this is one day to celebrate engineering. So we are very keen to see that this event has a lot of visibility, and this is one way, not the one way, but it's one way to bring people to this idea that engineering is a very important point to the development, to the progress of humanity. And in this World Engineering Day, we also look to the young people. So we have a very interesting contest, the hackathon, with a lot of participation of engineering students along the world. And we will celebrate this World Engineering Day next March 4th in Madrid with a very interesting conference, previous conference, a very interesting conference. And this is our idea to bring engineering to opening engineering to the society, to give some credibility and some visibility as well. Another point, and of course, we are also technical organizations. In our federation, we have a lot of technical committees. So I have here the list: disaster risk management, education in engineering, very important, energy, engineering and environment, engineering capacity building. We have also programs and projects in Africa, capacity building in place. So it's important to show that we are very close to the society, to the people. And I think that and we have our other standing technical committees here, engineering for innovative technologies, information and communication, water is important as also. And also some groups that are talking and studying and doing some very important work on policy implementation, namely information and communication, anti-corruption, and ethics. We are now building a new, update our ethic code. And of course, important for us also the future engineers, the young engineers that can have or must be educated with new ideas, new curricula to, for example, to fulfill the requests from United Nations for Sustainable Development Goals and so on. So I think this is not for the professional organization like national organization, because this organization have other works with directly with the engineers, with the government and so on. But I'm talking about these more international organizations. What can we do? And the WCC, as you know, we have also talked about, and others. So, for example, biomedical engineering and the other federations that are now members of our federation. We must talk about, and we'll have a meeting, a special meeting to discuss these kind of things. What can we do to make more visible our profession? And we have no all the solutions, but we can try to make some steps on that direction. This is my first idea, following your request. Okay.
Yeah, one of the things I gather from what you're saying is that raising the profile of civil engineers in the society is a way to benefit the individual members. For example, also those programs that relate to anti-corruption that will prepare these individual members, as long as we can reach them. Who else? Andreas, would you like to say something? And then you all will have the opportunity
Yeah.
to say things too.
No problem. I would like to add some of my thoughts, sorry, which I have as a president of ECHE, perhaps more from the European side and in general from the side of institutional federation. I think we as well as WCCE, we have a problem of membership, of the number of members. When we would like to have a voice, a strong voice in daily life against politicians in society, we have to be strong and we have to have members. But we have to overcome, I think, also political and language barriers to incorporate countries who are not present at that time. You know, I think this is a task we should talk about in WCCE, and we are talking about in ECEC as well. We are working on it very hard, and we already had some success about that. When we have a strong voice, we have more political influence and are not so dependent on the things politicians say. You know, if we want to bring our ideas into society or politics, we have to be active and not react on things. So we have to formulate what we want and stand up and fight for it. Another problem which was not mentioned up to now is education. And education of engineers. Okay, engineering education is a little bit difficult, so many young people do not want to do that. You know? Perhaps one reason is the education or the difficulty of the studies. The other difficulty is the social acceptance of an engineer, especially in Western countries. An engineer is the one who destroyed everything. You have to fight him. You don't rely on the words of an engineer. This has to be changed. You know? I think this is a very important thing. This leads to a lack of engineers. In Europe, we have a terrible lack of engineers, and we are not able to do all the work which comes up and which has to be done. This has to be, I think this is also a reason why we have to partner to cooperate all over the world. Because also in Europe, there are some countries where they have lots of engineers and many engineers don't have work there. So if we have leveled qualification of engineers, then it would work. It would help both sides. So this is a point we should think about as well. Yeah, I already said the acceptance in society. I think we have to present ourselves more, compared to architects. They are present in any discussion over a building, over a monument. These architects are everywhere, but the engineer who made it possible, he doesn't exist, or in many cases he doesn't exist. Okay, these are the challenges, but on the other hand, there are opportunities for the individual engineer and for the organizations as well. An engineer should not be the workhorse for other faculties. An engineer is the engineers are the intellectual parents of technical systems. So we are the bringers of ideas. And especially in our discussion now about fulfilling the UN sustainability goals, or there is a wide range of work. Resilience and sustainability brings us work without ending. And I think as engineers, we are solution finders and the solution bringers. We have to team up to tackle with different disciplines and work on that. So we also have to, as civil engineers, to tear down barriers in our heads, to team up with other faculties to fulfill the things which are coming up. Water, wastewater, waste management, traffic infrastructure of any kind. Lots of work coming up to us, especially infrastructure. In Europe, most of the infrastructure is now 80 to 100 years old. So lots of maintenance is needed, which has been refused up to now. So we have really problems also in Europe. And I think as far as I have informations on the US, they have it as well. But politicians didn't hear the engineers. There has to be an accident or some disaster, then they listen for a few weeks, and then it's gone. I think we have to explain that functioning modern infrastructure is the basis for a safe and livable life in our world. That's one thing. Sustainability, the circular economy, recycling, carbon footprint reducing is another thing. We have to also to bring up the education system to teach those issues. This is lacking at the moment, or starting now. Natural hazards. That's a wide range of work coming up to us, and not only in Africa, in Asia, in South America, even in Central Europe, we have huge problems with permafrost thawing, with avalanches, with slope stability, flooding. This is a wide work we have to do. Energy production and delivery, it's just the same. So I think for engineers, there is a lot of things to do, and we have to bring this topic up and try to convince the young generation to be an engineer, to be the creator of a livable world. Thank you.
You are welcome. I guess it's your turn, Fernando.
Thank you. I'll be quickly about my reflections. And thank you for this challenge debate. Well, in our opinion, and we are very concerned about this situation that we have not enough qualified people here in Portugal, for example, for the budget that we have for new infrastructures next 10 years, for example. And we are trying to take solutions for that issue. I think it's not a problem just from Portugal. In Europe, there are a lack of engineers, mainly civil engineers, in North America also. And we know that it's a large problem of us. And we have to see the reasons, the herds of construction, and mainly in our opinion, because with the test, there are two mainly situations that it is not about, how can I say, about lack of work, because we have work. It's one is because construction and mainly civil engineering, but construction because architect, and I'll explain that. But construction is not fashion at the moment. It's old-fashioned perfection. Then, so why the courses of architecture became full and civil engineer not? Because that's the other part. Before, the mainly reasons to be an engineer in a group, in a keep, was ethics and deontologics, to belong to an organization, and the recognition by other engineers. Nowadays, it's not like that. Nowadays, the mainly important things is, okay, social recognition, and mainly individual projection. And civil engineer has no individual projection, and architect, yes. So that's the difference in construction between architects and the civil engineers. But we are trying to create some attractive young future engineers, and we have to understand that the 21st century in the civil engineer, they are not the old civil engineers like concrete and iron. It's much more like interactive decisions and integrative support to political decisions. So we have this kind of engineering 5.0, and it's with that we have to kept people to construction, because let us see, actually engineering is a commodity. It's not a way. If I want water at my house, I just have to turn or to push a button like a light, and mainly of people doesn't know how to have this at home, so don't know the way. And it's not necessary to explain that the things are on in a distance of a click, and it's that we have to interactive and kept people. Now, little boys with a smartphone can do anything with 5 years old, almost, but and they grow up with this, and it's that they want to do in the future with computer, with interactive, and with a simple click. So we have to try to keep people to engineering with simple clicks. How? It's big, huge, but we think that it's a big problem. So this is one. The other one is in the globalization and with new needs. And pay attention, new needs is like I heard yesterday in the presentation of American Society of Civil Engineers, is that we will not put sustainability in maintenance. No way. We just want these things to do it well, to work well. In new things, probably we'll put sustainability, but in the another one, probably it's not. So we have to equilibrate these issues to the new generation of engineering. And it's that we know here in Portugal, if you want to do all the things that we have budget to do that, we have to have a very strong immigration politics and in anticipation against other countries, because we will need more people here. Thank you.
You're welcome. I don't know if Papias is online. Is there anyone? No, nobody. I will give the opportunity to Carlos to say something, and all of the audience, especially Maria, please, if you want to share some thoughts after Carlos, okay?
Well, Mr. President, thank you for the opportunity. In fact, I think the most important things have been said. And in fact, we are facing a problem concerning to civil engineers' attractivity. I don't know what's happening exactly in different countries, in different regions of the world, but in Portugal, namely in Europe, in fact, the young students, they are looking for the technologies, because for them they are more attractive, even better paid, because in Portugal the questions of the salaries that are being paid, they are very low, and of course a student, when he enters to the university, he thinks twice, and he decides to choose the best solutions for his future life. It's a pity. It's a pity because in one end, as Fernando told, I think yesterday, that we are with a big lack of engineers in the next future. But in the other hand, we must look not only for the developed countries, I mean Europe and perhaps United States, but we the North America. But if we look carefully to what's happening in Africa, what's happening in South America, what's happening in Asia, and when we look to targets that the United Nations has decided with the 17 goals to be achieved until 2030, that will be impossible. We are talking about a lot of things and infrastructures. I mean education, I mean water supply, I mean sanitation, I mean health, I mean roads, and so on. Of course, that we are talking about the intervention of civil engineers. And of course, that one civil engineer in a developed country doesn't think the same way that he can think in one other place like this one. Because when it depends by himself to work in regions where perhaps there are no access to internet and to other ways of communicating, we are facing different problems. That's why I defend that each time it's more necessary that we can find in these forums to discuss this problem, because we must share resources, we must share resources, I mean human resources, civil engineers, but also we must discuss how we can solve the difference that still go on our world. It's a very unjust, not just a world, because we are living in 2 or 3 phases and 2 or 3 levels, and of course that we must achieve a new way to that all countries have the minimum conditions of life, and we are quite far away. And I say exactly we are each day more far away from the goals that we want to achieve. And of course, we feel very close of our colleagues from the different regions, and this is the great challenge that we must face in this kind of meetings and organization. Thank you very much.
Adelante. Sí, José.
I'm sorry, maybe other people want to talk, but I don't resist about this very important issue. And forgive me to go a little bit more philosophically thinking. When I was graduate here in this university here in Porto, I could, some time ago, not so much. I could design, I could make some architectural works, and I was trained to think more than other things. You see that we have in our word engineering or engineering. If you go to the root, to the etymology of this word, you can find two different ideas, and they are very important to the education of engineers. Because, for example, for this word engineering, in English, you say engineer with coming from engine. Engineer was the man that makes something with the engine. But the Latin words we have engine comes from ingenium, from Latin is thinking, is innovation, is something different. And you can have for education these two roads: engineer, that is the man that makes something, and engineer, that the man or woman, I'm sorry, that can think about the problems, that can plan the things and so on. And I remember when this, you have been maybe here in Porto, in one big bridge. I was with the engineer that was one of our famous civil engineers building and designing and building bridges. And I asked him, professor, he was also a professor in engineering, what do you think about architect to design a bridge like that? And he was furious with me. No, this is this is a civil engineer design, no architect design. So, and this from time to time, and you can see this more 2 decades coming from now. We, as civil engineers, we are losing always, and to other professions like architects, but not only architects. For example, if you go to a very nice and building and infrastructure from our heritage, for example, if you have any problem there, you don't ask for a civil engineer. You better go to an archaeologist, not engineer. So this is why I said before that we are guilty in this, because we must do something about that. And if you have in society this more visibility and more consideration, of course, we will have more young people going to civil engineering. Is my thought. It's a little bit philosophical, but I think. Okay, thank you, President.
Yeah, when you said that you could talk, you were right.
Okay.
Let me give the word to Maria. Just a second, and you know, yeah.
My friend Vera said. Well, there is another meaning, Jose. It's, engine and is machination, which means cheating. So we have to have in mind that. You see, and it seems that
It comes from Greek.
The only meaning of engineering that is left to society is somehow cheating. But we all remember Odysseus, which he made a trick to conquer Troya. It was a machination, it was machine, it was ingenio also. So, and by the way, I'd like to say that it is a big mistake that we have, let's say, somehow quitted our architectural part of engineering. You see, it was a big mistake that we have accepted that. Well, although historically we come from the same, let's say, person, which was the Homo universalis of the Renaissance, but we have, well, you see, the knowledge we have to keep in mind. It's a huge volume now. It is inevitable that we have some kind of specialization, but it doesn't mean that we can accept that an engineer has no, let's say, an artistic part of himself, and then an architect is completely ignorant on technical problems. That's quite let's say, a very simplification that is against us, not against architects. So we have to do something about it. And well, I just wanted to add that cheating was also one of the meanings of let's say, etymology for engineers. So thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you so much for having me, for inviting me. Fernando actually came to our convention in Anaheim and started this ball rolling that I needed to come to this meeting and I needed to come to Portugal. They've been wonderful hosts all week. And so I can give you the ideas from ASCE. One of the things that we have as an organization is an industry leaders council. So it is people that are in the C-suite, so CEOs, COOs, chief engineers in a number of organizations, and you're invited to join. And you have to pay for everything yourself. And they are a think tank for the things that we do for the future in ASCE. I've been serving on ILC for about 7, 8 years now. And when the ASCE board came to us about our strategy for the next 25 years, we had our Vision 2025 document, and it was 2018, time to start thinking about what we're going to replace it with. ILC said that 25 years was not long enough, and we need to look at 50. We need to look at changing everything about what we do. So the idea that we use prescriptive specs, we need to use performance specs. You cannot innovate with prescriptive specs, for example. That we need to look at how we educate. We are not teaching to a syllabus. We have to teach creative problem solving. All these things, and we need to look at life cycle costs and not first instance costs. We are driven in the public sector to provide the cheapest, when we turn the keys over to the owner, and not necessarily thinking about how expensive it will be, which means sustainability and resilience over the long term. And so from all that, we have done a lot of things in the organization, but that was the birth of starting to talk about future world vision, which we presented the last 2 nights ago in Lisbon and last night here, with the idea that, yes, for kids to think that this is an interesting and sustainable field, it has to be exciting. We have to shed the fact that people think, if they even know what a civil engineer does, that we wear dirty boots and hard hats, and we aren't doing things innovative, and we are not doing things exciting. So Future World Vision went to a company called Experimental from Southern California that does 3-dimensional and AR gaming engines. And we married them with thousands of engineers as to what is leading in sustainability and resilience and in design around the world. Pilots that are out there, and then bringing that into where we're going. It's not just about an outreach tool. We want to excite little children. My oldest granddaughter is 7. She has a STEM class once a week, and I'm from Buffalo, New York. So we missed a few. We were shut down for very large snows in November and December. And she's angry because she misses STEM class because she likes it so much. Now, her father's an engineer and her grandparents are engineers, so that may have something to do with it. But getting her excited about what the possibilities are. So it's outreach at all levels. So from grade school all the way through high school. We did a companion piece because during COVID, it was very difficult for many professors to make the transition to doing something online. And so we provided curriculum for undergraduate and graduate education. And then it also provides a platform to have a virtual whiteboard around the world with practicing engineers on how we take the challenges. What we design is for a 50 or 100-year lifespan. 50 years ago, we didn't know what WWW was. We didn't have a cell phone. In some cases, we were still designing with slide rules and or probably a calculator that had a vacuum tube display. And we did not think about all the things that we have to integrate into the built environment, whatever that is. And so thinking about future world vision, for example, if you're going to do a skyscraper, it should produce and treat its own water. It should not create any waste outside of that building. It should have the ability to grow hydroponically within that space and those kinds of ideas. So that's how we enter into future world vision. The other tenets that we did is I led the charge that we needed to relook at our strategic plan. It was 4 years old. Everything changed during COVID. Instead of doing a 2-year plan with a consultant and then another 2 years of KPIs, we charged a committee under our board strategic advisory committee to do it in 7 months. Everybody said, you can't do that. It's impossible. Well, on the private side, that's a 2 to 3 month process because it is obsolete by the time you print it. So we did that. We're implementing right now, and we're focusing on a number of items, but I can tell you, we call our diversity initiative JEDI, justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. I'm telling people to become JEDI masters. Yes, I meant that on purpose. It's very important that we think about that, not in our own profession, not only in our own profession, but in the communities we serve. Ethics is and continues to be a very big concern. And one of the other topics that we took on much more seriously is construction site safety, because we have not focused on it enough. And we have taken cues from the mining industry, who used to be the worst performers in site safety, and they're now among the best. And so looking at how we change, how we think about that. As far as we have a resilience standard that actually the federal government has adopted under FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency. And we have been arm wrestling for 4 years on a sustainability standard. And our board met in Charlotte on Sunday. And the board is going to vote either on a standard or a pre-standard, depending on what happens with the appeals in February at our March meeting. We're done talking about it. We need to start somewhere. That starts the process for life cycle costs and for performance specifications. That has a lot of people nervous. That's okay. We like changing things. So my advice to all of you and to everyone that I talk about is that we need to learn to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. That means talking about what we do, changing the way we have done things in the past for a new future, and getting excited about it. Because when we get excited about it, we get our neighbors excited about it, we get kids excited about it, and we are not going to see, I mean, we have a crisis in workforce. The only place that I do not have an issue, and I work for GHD, which is a worldwide company, the only place that we're working with 12,000 employees that we don't have a problem hiring people is in Chile. That's it. So Central and South America, and there's pockets, because talking to George last night, he said Argentina's having the same problems. So whether it's India, whether it's China, whether it's Europe, it's North America, it doesn't matter. There's not enough of us. We need better 3D printers.
Well, thank you very much. It's the opportunity for any of you that are here to say something if you want to share.
Mr. Chairman, I
Go
think
on.
Papias is now online.
I just got a quick response to the simple click mentioning of Fernando. I think the simple click is not enough for a civil engineer. You have to know what's happening behind the click, you know, and this is hard work to understand what's happening behind. If we can't judge the result, then digitalization won't help us either. We can, if you can use a software package, but if you don't know what you're doing, sorry to say, shit in, shit out. So digitalization or digitization must not degenerate to end in itself. It has to be implemented as a help for our work, but not end up in itself. Thank you.
Start speaking.
I
Hello,
don't know if anybody that is connected would like to say something. I don't know how we can handle that. Jose Francisco.
I am connected. Hello.
Well, yeah,
Just say hello.
if nobody else has anything to say, let's,
I am Papias and
okay, okay.
yes. Sorry, I have not been following properly because you're organizing the event tomorrow. But when I was contacted, I should say something little on the challenges and opportunities for civil engineering organization. First of all, I want to talk about the opportunities. Engineers, amongst the other built environment professionals, should take advantage of their number, and their number should be reflected in whatever is done in terms of influencing policies and decisions for sustainability. So, unfortunately, today, we find that there is a lot of fragmentation. Most engineers work individually, and in my personal opinion, think that it's because they have always thought that technical aspects of engineering are the ones that solve the problem, but presently, I don't think it is the truth. We need to learn more about social, economic, and political engineering so that when we align it with the technical aspects of engineering, we can better deal with the problems and challenges that face the society. So I urge, as the WCCE, to probably take lead and continue in that line. Otherwise, if we continue to be fragmented, other professions or other events will overcome us, and later on we will have nothing to say or nothing to do. And I also take this opportunity to apologize that I won't continue to stay with you because we are busy organizing the event tomorrow, and we will be sharing also the virtual for some of you who will manage to follow. You are most welcome, and I should say that welcome to Kigali. It's a lovely place, and when you come once, you will love to come the second and third time. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Papi.